going to start? I have a few notes here just to remind the old girl what I'm talking about. And we are talking about, and I don't know whether I will show up or you will. Do you have the book in front of you? I have the book in front of me. I got a preview copy, and so that's why I read all the way, there we go, all the way through it. And in my copy, it says today is the publication date. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
So congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. It's been
Now-
a long road.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
For those of you who haven't read it, A Rendezvous to Remember is called a memoir of joy and heartache in the dawn of the 60s. Well, it is that, but it is so much more. You can't quite describe it only as a love story. It's a historical document. It's
Great.
a personal story. It is a bit of a mystery, even though we know the outcome. Those of us who know the authors, we know the outcome. And it's much, much more. It is a long book in terms of the ones I've been reading lately. It is written a chapter by Anne and then another chapter by Terry. And then an Anne and a Terry, and we go back and forth. Now, let me see, note number 1. I wondered if the two of you would give a very short resume of your writing backgrounds. As far as I knew, you had just started to write a book. I had no idea of your professional backgrounds. So, Anne, you want to start? A short resume of your writing backgrounds.
Okay. The majority of my professional career was in writing technical documents for nuclear waste cleanup and hazardous waste, which is chemicals as opposed to atomic chemicals. And so I have been Terry's editor over the years. He's been more doing the creative nonfiction and the fiction, and I've been his editor. And then after I quit doing nuclear waste, we started working on this book, and so this is my first foray into creating nonfiction.
Okay, Terry, your background.
I started working at a newspaper when I was a freshman in high school. And I worked at that newspaper all through high school, and then I majored in journalism at the university. And every summer I worked at a newspaper somewhere in southern Colorado. And then after I graduated, I went to Glendale, Arizona to follow her and worked for a newspaper there and became the editor there. And then through the years, my first book was a language book, How to Learn Foreign Unwritten Languages. Then I did a book of photos and essays on Carlsbad, New Mexico. Then I did a novel, Soda Springs. And then this is my fourth book. So I've been writing ever since. I mean, that's been my profession, is writing a lot in journalism and also some newspaper, quite a few magazine articles as well.
So I didn't know that, and I learned it in the book, and I thought it would be interesting to others. Okay, so who came up with the idea of doing this particular book?
Well, it all started with a Christmas present that Terry gave me in 2013. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, Terry Marshall.
It's called
The Courting Years, yeah.
And you can see how thick it is. This is a 3-ring binder, and it's our letters that they're love letters and other letters that we exchanged from the time we knew each other as best buddies at the University of Colorado, all the way through to when we got married.
I gave it to her as a Christmas gift one Christmas.
Which Christmas?
Like 2013?
Yeah, it says it on the book.
Okay, yeah.
2013.
And then we read the letters every night for 6 weeks.
Out loud.
Out loud at night before we went to bed. And
To each other.
Yeah. When we finished, we said, we really have to do something with this.
It was so emotional every night when we finished reading whatever little segment we read. I couldn't even go to sleep at night thinking about it. And by the time we finished, I was just full up with the emotion of it all. And I said, what are we going to do with this?
What we decided really was, we didn't set out to write a love story. We read these letters and we saw how we had changed through the years. We said, how did this happen? How did we go from best friends to a married couple? Let's figure out why.
Yeah.
And so we started with those letters and then we developed it into a book.
Now, did you know that you were going to do my chapter and then his chapter, you know?
It just seemed to work that way. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's a journey of discovery. And you think about putting yourself back into that situation, and I know what I'm thinking, but I don't know what she's thinking. And so we start at the same place, and then I'm doing something and thinking something, and she's doing something and thinking something, and we can begin to look into each other's minds and get a better sense of what was really going on at the time. And particularly when she's in Europe and I'm in Colorado, that's really important because we had no idea what the other was doing and thinking during those
At a
those
particular moment in time.
And that's kind of the core of the book, that trip of hers to Europe.
Yes, it's the core of the book, except that I wrote down one sentence here. Because I did email you and say I love the beginning of the book because it really set what was going to happen. But this sentence, I was in a bare-knuckle bout with one Lieutenant Jack Skagg. This is from you, Terry. I was in a bare-knuckle bout with one Lieutenant Jack Skagg for Annie's heart. So that's where we say, uh-oh, this is what this is about. But then it was about so much more. So were those letters so detailed that you could remember the places, the things that, I just came away and said, how the heck? Because I knew the 60s and I don't remember anything except 10 things. I couldn't say what the mountains looked like when I went on a hike. And you have those kinds of things in there.
Yeah, the letters are really detailed. Like there's a 10-page single-spaced letter from me to her when I took a trip down the Colorado. It was a Green River actually leading into the Colorado River one summer. And like when she was in Europe and I was in Colorado, we were up in the mountains and I described all of those scenes to her in great detail. Really a huge resource.
Let me tell you, Diane, I'm really glad you asked that question because it brought something into focus that I didn't figure out till just now. And what I figured out just now is that the letters that Terry wrote me from Colorado when I was in Europe were a real turning point for me. Because you know the story, Diane, of Terry being up on the mountainside and the bumblebee frisking every blossom for the pollen so he could take it back, and he must be working by the pound instead of by the hour because he was really busy. And then there were the marmots, which there were the whistle pigs, and he was describing all of that. And I would finish reading those letters and I'd go, wow, that's the kind of life I want. That would be great. And so he was so detailed. And then there was the trip down Black Bear Pass, which is actually, it's a cliff with just a road wide enough for a narrow Jeep to go down. And it's straight up on one side, straight rock, and then on the other side, going down, there's no railing or anything. And
it's like 1,500 feet at least.
Yeah, straight drop off. And he did that while I was in Europe, and he wrote me a very detailed letter about that. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack before he got down to the bottom.
So did I.
Well, that's really important that we know what an accomplished writer. If you're a newspaper writer, you have to write fast, and you could write fast, and you were bored, I guess, and you gave her every detail. Now, in the course of this book, so the the script, but the Christmas gift came in 2013. When did the book start? Right then?
2014. Well,
That's when we went to the first.
no, we went to the first, actually we did it it must have been Christmas right before that, because we went up to Iowa in the summer of 2013 for a couple of small workshops, and then we went in 2014 for the Memoir workshop. Yeah, so we started it in 2013.
Yeah, but
So-
really the heart of it was 2014 when we went to a memoir memoir workshop. It was juried, and so she accepted only 10 manuscripts.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say people because we counted for one person.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to have a certain amount of the manuscript ready to go to get into the jury selection.
Yeah, each of us submitted 250 pages, and we all read the other 9 manuscripts before we got there.
Wow.
Yeah, this was really a heavy-duty workshop, and it was run by a woman named Hope Edelman, who her first book, Motherless Daughters, sold 2.5 million copies. I mean, she's really a skilled
So what did
workshop.
she say about your 250 pages?
She loved it, of course. Well, we made it into the workshop.
Okay, so then that was a number of years ago, though.
7 years ago.
And I don't know how many years ago we first knew that you were writing a book. You would give us excerpts along the way. Was it an easy process in these 7 years or 6 years?
I think, go ahead.
It was a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, but the hard part was we really grooved on the writing. The writing was fun, and thinking about it was fun. What wasn't fun was having to go through the damn thing so many times.
Yeah.
And it took so long to get through. Like once we had a publisher, it took so long to get through the writing and the editing and writing again. That was the difficult part.
But here was what was fun. The research, coming back to your topic,
Yes.
research the facts of life and how you research for an autobiography. And so we did have to go back and reconstruct different parts of the
Well, what a
past.
church looked like in Germany in 1960. That's what I was amazed. I mean, you described those things you saw in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, another part of that is the research. We redid the trip. In 2014, Annie and I went.
Was it
2014?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And in fact, this was the thing. Once we got into the book, I said, you know what? We really need to go to Europe to really make sure we know what this was like. And so we went, and we took the same trip that she and Jack took.
Oh.
Went to all these places. And so, like, you get to a point, a good example is when, on the trip, when Annie and Jack were going from Paris to Saint-Tropez, she dumped his Corvette in a ditch, a big ditch, a deep
Right,
ditch.
right.
It wasn't all that big. I went back, and it's not that big.
And I went back too. So we found the exact spot where she dumped that Corvette. And so we know what the road signs look like. We know what the terrain is like. We know how deep the borrowed pit is. We know what the grass is like. We know what the trees are like and the hills. And we know what it smells like. And so we recreated that. We found that spot. And we recreated it in the scene.
Well, I didn't know that, or if I knew it, I forgot. But, that helps. That helps.
Like we went to the barracks where Jack lived in Landshut, Germany. And interestingly enough, it was closed. They were remodeling. They're turning it into dormitories for college students. It was locked, but we talked to a workman and talked our way in. We went down and walked through the rooms, and we put ourselves in those settings again. Or like the officers club.
Yeah, the officers club was this hangout for, all the guys when they were off duty, and it was a really jolly place. And so we went looking, and I said, I think it's right here. There's this building, and it seems like that's it. And we walked up, and it says, Musikschule. So it's a music school. But then that was the big brass sign, and the little brass sign said, formerly the officers club.
Ah.
And so we looked around, we opened the door, and there was nobody inside. I mean, it wasn't locked, no receptionist, so we went tiptoeing in, and we went through the whole place, and as we got inside, we heard the sound of a flautist playing in a practice room somewhere. So obviously they had partitioned off the building into little practice rooms. That was the only sound we could hear, and so we tiptoed all around, and then we went down to where the ballroom was, and where we had meals and went dancing and so forth, and it just brought back a lot of memories that were dormant.